some of the things that we want to take a look at before we're going to ask a member of Congress to do something. As Levine defines this, kind of what we should think about before we make the ask. And we can call this political capital. Capital meaning the actual Capitol building. We're going to focus more in capital in that things that members of Congress accumulate. So how do we define the idea of political capital? Well, really it's kind of what we can call the goodwill a politician amasses by virtue of a number of different qualities. One is just by virtue of his or her official position as a member of Congress, they are viewed in a different light as a consequence of that. Second, of his or her popularity with the public or a constituency. So if say for example, a member of Congress is very popular with, say, gun control groups or with the NRA for Second Amendment rights, that means that they have a lot of political capital in that field. How well are you liked by other officials within the Washington community is very important as well. There are some members of Congress who are very high profile but are not liked by anyone. So for example, to use one example of recent years, Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, while being a very high profile person who's run for Congress, was really viewed by other members of the United States Senate as being somebody who was only in it for himself and not really kind of a team type player. So, you know, those relationships that you have with other people help to build up political capital over time, and people that only appear to be doing things for themselves tend to have less political capital, less stuff stored up. And you also have more political capital, particularly in a specific issue area, if you've built up some expertise and a knowledge base about that issue. People are going to approach you on that issue and take what you have to say as being fairly substantial. Now, when we think about the idea of political capital, I want to, as a member of Congress, build up as much as I can over the course of my career so that I can use it when I need to. And there may be many different situations in which I need to. One might be to help cajole you to vote for something that's good for my district. In other situations, maybe I'm running for a leadership position and I've done a number of favors for other people, and I kind of call in the political capital that I've built up over the years so that you will vote for me for a leader position. There's all types of different ways that you might use this political capital. But you know, members of Congress are very cognizant of the amount of political capital they have and when they use it. So they have to focus in on using it correctly and wisely, and we have to understand that. So, you know, basically they make a cost-benefit analysis of when it makes sense to actually use this political capital, and they want to use it for times that they really need it. And one thing that we also have to understand is that there's no valor going down with the ship, right? So unless it's an issue that's very important to your constituency, you're not going to find a member of Congress that really is going to take on a lost cause and expend their political capital on that issue. So we can't ask members of Congress to do things that probably are never going to happen. Now, how do you accumulate political capital? Well, one of the ways that we just talked about this is kind of by being what we can call a go-to guy in Congress. In that people will come to us and ask us for information. Again, remember, information is very critical to members of Congress who operate in a very uncertain environment. So, you know, if I'm a member of Congress, people are going to come to me if they agree with me, right? So if I happen to be a liberal Democrat, liberal Democrats are coming to me and ask me. If I build up kind of a couple of different things all wrapped up here together, credibility, expertise, and seniority, over the years people have recognized that I'm a leader on a certain issue. If I have that political capital, people will come and ask me for advice on those issues. And then also members of my state delegation also will come to me and ask, you know, because how does this affect our state? How does it affect our region? And that's important as well. Now, Richard Fenno has talked about this idea of various types of constituencies. And members of Congress build up kind of political capital with those different constituencies. So we see the different types of constituencies that Fenno's talked about in a series of concentric circles. The personal constituency, which is those people that I know my family, my friends, members of my staff who've been there since the beginning of my political career. My primary constituency are essentially those people that are always there for me. If I'm a Democrat in a heavily unionized city, the unions are going to be a core constituency for me. Oftentimes in African American districts, churches are very important as a primary constituency. Those people who are going to show up for rallies for me, those people who are going to donate money, that sort of thing. Then we have the re-election constituency, and those are the people that are going to vote for me. And then finally we have the entire geographical constituency, meaning my entire 750,000 members or constituents if I'm a member of the House of Representatives, or for example in Pennsylvania the entire 12 million people that would be constituents for a United States senator here. And we, in essence, have different relationships with them and build up capital with them over time in different manners. Now, the question is, when should I, as a member of Congress, decide that I'm going to expend my political capital on something that you, as an advocate or a lobbyist, ask me to do? Given all the pressing issues that people come to me and ask me to deal with. So Levine gives us kind of some good examples here. One member of Congress that he spoke to basically gave 5 different issue things that he went through and took a look at before deciding whether or not he wanted to expend political capital on helping out a lobbyist. So, one thing was, did it help advance our legislative agenda? Right? So, each individual member of Congress has a certain amount of policy issues that they want to address, and is this part of that? Is it worth me doing it as part of the agenda that I want to look at? Does it have any press or media value? How can I take this back to my district and have some credit claiming? Is it consistent with our philosophy, right? Which is very important, right? So over the years, you build up a certain amount of issues that you're interested in. You develop a certain ideological profile, or perhaps in some situations, if you're in a swing district, you want to be less ideological and more nonpartisan. Is what this lobbyist is asking me to do, is that part of the way that we've developed our philosophy of what we do over time? And if it's not, then I'm probably going to say, no, I'm not going to do it. How much effort, manpower would be involved, right? Is this something I can just add my name onto something and that's good enough for the lobbyist? Or am I going to have to, A, go lobby other members of Congress myself, or say, for example, use a member of my staff to coordinate various things? How much do I have to give up is another concern that I'm going to have. And certainly the less that I have to do, the better. And again, is there any cost involved? And there are many different types of costs, right? Cost in reputation, cost again in using staff members, costs in potentially people being mad at me back in the district, that sort of thing. So this is all the kind of mentality that goes into a member of Congress, and they're trying to think about whether or not they should do what a lobbyist is asking them. Now, what's interesting is to understand that there are different ways that members of Congress can interpret these things. And again, each kind of member of Congress creates a different persona for them, a certain kind of attitude within their office of what they want to accomplish. So, we have to understand the nuances of the member. Are you coming from a district which you may well lose re-election in the next election, right? So, there's a class of senators who may have been elected in blue states, in other words, Democratic states, but they were Republicans, right? They got a good shot to lose in the next election. What if I only won the last election by 5 percentage points? What if I'm a freshman? Usually, after the second, once you gain re-election, you're pretty much good for life after that. But the first time you run for re-election, you're very vulnerable. So, what's it look like? You coming from a safe district where basically you can do whatever you want, or are you coming from a district that's relatively marginal and I could get booted out of office? Second is, what kind of a member of Congress am I dealing with here? On the left here, you see this kind of show horse. And on the right is a workhorse. Some members of Congress like to be very high profile and really kind of show off everything they do. Other members of Congress work behind the scenes and try to get things accomplished without being overly media savvy. Who am I dealing with? What type of person am I dealing with? and then I kind of come up with an agenda to deal with them in that manner.